Welcome to the Business with Beers podcast. This is the place where we help entrepreneurs expand their business, build their wealth, and generate passive income. I'm your host, Brian Beers, an entrepreneur who's on a mission to inspire growth from everyone around me. Remember that you need to take the actions others won't, and you can live the life that others don't. Please be sure to check out my weekly newsletter that now drops every Thursday. It includes one quote, one tweet, one podcast recommendation, plus some business and investing insight from me. It's short and it's sweet. My goal is to provide you with just a couple gold nuggets to help inspire your growth. Go to brianbeers.com to subscribe. Hello, everyone. I'm excited today to bring you Ellen Rohr and Grace Donnelly from Zoom Drain. Ellen is the president of Zoom Drain, one of the fastest growing drain cleaning franchises, and Grace works for franchise FastLane, which is the sales rep organization that helps them grow. So welcome to the show, Ellen and Grace.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Hey, Brian. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So to start, let's talk about, I guess, the history of Zoom Drain. So what's the origin story?
I'll take this one, Grace.
Yeah, I was going to say that's definitely your question, Ellen.
Yeah, well, once upon a time, I got into the trades because I married a plumber. I married a guy named Hot Rod. He's a plumber. I'm still married to him 40 years later. And growing up, my family called people. We were not handy. I'm not handy. I didn't know anything about the trades. But then I married my husband, and that was really the beginning of everything for me. I fell in love with tradespeople because of why I love my husband. I love, they're no nonsense. It works or it doesn't. It was just like a whole new world for me. And we had a mom and pop shop going way, way back. In Park City, Utah. And I suffered every horribleness that you could as a small business owner. We didn't have any money. We fought all the time. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. And I have a degree in business administration. And I'd had jobs where I had been responsible for teams and looking at financials. But boy, I was getting my butt kicked as a business owner once upon a time. And then I was lucky enough, and I guess scrappy enough, to find help through magazines, now podcasts and blogs and newsletters. I just started reaching out, like, how do people do this? How do people make money in contracting? Because I sure am not. And I found some really awesome mentors, and they taught me how to read and use financial reports. And I know that sounds so unsexy, but that was like being born again for me, because I was like, how did I not know this? What's a balance sheet? What's a profit and loss? And that really set me on my career. So I started to help other mom and pop shops figure out their asset from their elbow and, get their act together. And as a result, I've had a very interesting and extraordinary career, because I've talked to and worked with hundreds, maybe thousands of contractors at this point. I started writing for the trade magazines like Plumbing and Mechanical and PHC Pros and like Roofing Contractor. And then I'd just meet people, go visit with them, learn about what they were doing and apply these best practices. And as a result, I've worked for a lot of franchises, a lot of affinity groups and associations. And at one point I got into franchising as the first and only employee at Benjamin Franklin, the punctual plumber. So that when that group started, I was the one that worked with a group of very savvy venture capitalists to get that launched. And I learned a lot. And what I mostly learned was that franchising is wicked cool. And franchisees and franchisors have this extraordinary opportunity to create a dynamic relationship that can create greatness. Like, I was all in on franchising at that point. So I worked with that group. We grew to 47 locations in under 2 years, and it was a wild ride. And I am completely indebted to the franchisees who dragged me through it. I was definitely in over my head, but again, I just started to really understand, hey, how this works. We are committed to each other and we have to hold on to each other, but we also have to pull on each other to create this dynamic that really makes franchising wonderful. So when I left there, I knew I wanted to do franchising again. And about 7 years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine who wanted to invest in a company. And I said, I want to franchise again. And just then, one of our mutual clients, Jim Prinity from Zoom Drain, called. It was like this kismet moment. And he called And we're like, we were just talking about franchising. And he said, I was calling you to see if I could franchise Zoom Drain. What do you say? And we never looked back. It was just the three of us dug in. And we got started. I did not want to be the fastest growing. In fact, Grace, I say this every day. I don't want to be the fastest. I want to be what?
The best.
The best. I just want to be the best franchisee. So as we got started, I wanted to slow down a little, get our legs under us, make sure we had the manuals dialed in. Our mothership and model center was just humming. Al Levy, who was our original investor, says, if you want it to be lukewarm out there, it's got to be red hot in here. And so that was really our intention with the company store as we got started. And then during COVID and due to my ineffective sales strategy, I'd kind of run out of friends and family. We're at about 15 franchisees. And I knew it was time to put the gas on. I'd been keeping my eye on FastLane for years. I loved them. I loved what they were doing. And I wanted to make sure we were ready for some growth. And we also found some investors. I love our investors. I know not everybody says it, but MPK Equity is our investment company. And I love them as friends, as people, as allies. I could not be more enthusiastic about that relationship. And then it's really been a rock star year for us. And I'm so happy to get to brag on my team here today, Brian. So that's kind of the fast version of the history.
Okay, great. So 15 locations a year ago. How many locations do you have open today, or franchisees?
I think we're at 33 open.
Yep.
And then we just signed on our 46th franchisee. And I think about we used to sell one big territory, and we've restructured this now with FastLane. You know how that goes. Like if you're in at the beginning and it's a great time to get a lot of territory. Early Z's did. For sure. And then, but we still have a lot of blue sky, and a 3-pack of 300,000 times 3 is about the average size of our territories for the new, we call them the OGs and the new Zs. So the OGs are prior to coming on board with FastLane, and the new kids in 2022 and 23 are the new Zs, and they are averaging 3 territories, 300,000. I mean, just to give a little background there.
So one of my questions always for in people in your situation is how do you make sure, so really good at selling them, right? We got this great sales organization. You've got a good packaging, right? You're attracting a lot of candidates. And sometimes what happens we see is these brands sell a ton of franchises, but then, on the operations side, on the back end, they can't keep up with the support, right? And then they can't execute at the level that, it was sold to people, right? And then there's a lot of growing pains, and eventually they figure it out. But, there's a struggle. They're on the struggle bus for a little bit. So what are you doing to keep up? You doubled this year. I'm sure the plan next year is to continue to grow. What are you doing internally to make sure that your support for franchisees grows at the same speed that you're able to sell them?
Well, we're going to fail every day. We definitely have struggle bus issues, as we grow. But the intention is so clear. My partner, Jim Crenity, is an Air Force veteran, and he is a systems guy. So even as we were putting this thing together, again, it wasn't about being the fastest growing. It was making sure we did have our legs under us, that we looked at other franchises and, who does this better than we do? Who's the best person at, procuring trucks? Who's the best person at helping people recruit? What about, knowledge transference? I mean, my manuals are better than any I have ever seen. And I've been doing all of this a long time, but it's getting that information into usable form in our franchisees' head, hearts, and hands, as well as their team members. So the obsession is on knowledge transference, on making sure these systems are in place. And even though we fail, and we fail uniquely every day, when someone says tell me the percentage of your franchisees who do such and so, I look at the list, and unique to each of them are the strengths and weaknesses of that particular franchise.
Yep.
You know, and I think you have to be careful to paint with too broad a brush as to why something's working or why something's not working, because the people factor is all in it, right? So I think the most important thing, you know, to communicate today is the overall intention. We have the manuals and the systems. We have absolutely solid intention to help them get good, because if they don't win, I don't win. None of us win. This is the mutual goal we all have, and we're clear on it. And then I just got this awesome crew of team members who are leaning in. No one ever complains about this. All they do is say, how can we be better? So I'm really proud of the team that we have. I know, Grace, you want to add to this too. So let me let you jump in there.
Oh, yeah. No, just piggybacking off of what you said, the adding the emphasis on how intentional Zoom Drain's growth has been. I mean, you're not just awarding anyone a franchise who wants a franchise. So really focusing on finding that franchise fit. And I always say that Zoom Drain is an emerging franchise, but we are an established brand. So we know exactly who we are, what we offer, how we support our franchisees, but we want to find the right fit. And the major bonus and pro to being an emerging franchise is that we currently have territories, which I probably will not be saying the same thing this time next year. It's going to be a lot more limited. So time is of the essence. But it's really about finding that right franchisee rather than just anybody who comes in with the opportunity.
Yep. Awesome. Good. So let's talk about what services does Zoom Drain offer, and then how does that compare to a Benjamin Franklin Plumbing or other competitor?
Well, I can start and then Grace jump in. Okay. So, in fact, once upon a time, Roto-Rooter had this concept. Like, if you're old like me, and I am, like go way back before you were born, Roto-Rooter really capitalized on this niche within the plumbing world. So for instance, plumbers would be considered the general practitioners, and drain cleaners would be the brain surgeons. Like, we have a specialty niche. And when you do drain cleaning like we do, it takes a whole truck. So everything in our big box trucks, right behind Grace, I don't know if you're going to have this picture there, but right, see everything in that
here,
box truck, is the jetter. We carry water, a slew of cables, sometimes called snakes, locator, camera, all the fittings, all the stuff, everything devoted just to do drain and sewer clearing and jetting cleaning. So when you do drains like us, then you can go to someone like Benjamin Franklin and say, hey, we will do the drain work that you don't want to do, and we'll refer you the plumbing work because we don't do it. So we can create these really powerful symbiotic relationships with people who would otherwise be our competition. Now, when you do plumbing and drains, right, you're going to be in competition with that guy, which is really where Roto-Rooter and Mr. Rooter went. And I am incredibly respectful of these big brands in my marketplace, but I'm going to be where they are not, which is this exclusivity. We're only going to do drain and sewer. We'll be the drain and sewer specialist, so I can really capitalize on that referral partnership. Our number one lead source, the customers with the greatest lifetime value, are plumbers who say they do drains, but really don't like to do drains or can't do drains like we do. And so we'll help them out, send work their way. Hopefully they'll send some our way. And that's how we've been able to grow.
They'll do like a basic, you call Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, you got an issue, they'll probably do whatever basic toilet. Like sometimes I've heard, and maybe it's Grace, that it's like in the house, maybe they can handle, but once the issue goes outside of the house, the equipment that they have on their truck is not suitable. And that's where you guys kind of come in. Is that like on a visualization basis? Is that kind of make sense? That's about it.
Or picture like that big truck. If you're going to do all kinds of plumbing, from remodeling to water heaters to toilets, that truck is going to be full of all that stuff. So you might just have one sewer machine on there, which is only going to get you so far. So to Grace's point, if it's a simple kitchen or
it's in the S-trap or whatever, they can handle it.
Yeah, they may be able to handle it. Now, different people, even Benjamin Franklin, there's some great competition out there who does, who specialize in drains.
So they've invested in the $200,000 or whatever that truck costs to build out, right? It's a lot of money for the pressurized special equipment. A lot of these guys don't want to spend that money for an infrequent thing, but since it's all you guys do, then it makes sense to invest in it, right? Is that the idea?
And one way to think of it, like a very easy, simple way to think of it, is that plumbers handle everything north of the drain and we handle everything south of the drain. So think below the ground, behind the walls, Zoom drains. Versus plumbers, they're busy with the installations and the remodels and all the inventory and the extra toilets and sinks. And us, we're just drains. We just have our equipment ready to go on the truck.
Do any of your franchisees, or are they allowed to own both the Benjamin Franklin and the Zoom drain, or is not allowed then?
They can't be competing, but some of our OGs, in fact, one of our newsies in San Diego, he had a plumbing company, and then the drain work comes over to Zoom Drain, but the plumbing company, separately branded, is an appropriate sister company.
Yeah, separately branded.
He's grown very fast. Yeah, so some of those guys are going to benefit, but he will also have the additional conversation with his referral partners that, hey, if I get a lead from you, it's not going to my sister company. It's going to come back to you. And that's just a matter of being a good neighbor and a good referral partner. But this is definitely a referral business. You know, that's how we make, that's how we make money. We are good, respected influencers in our community. So that, you know, if that appeals to you, you know, then this might be a good fit. Like if you understand that, if you like doing business that way. I've heard this said that, you know, if you have some blue collar roots, or you have, you know, an appreciation of blue collar, you don't have to be a plumber to do this work. And in fact, another advantage is that, Brian, you don't need the licensing that a plumber would need. Now, it's different per state, and of all states, Texas is the most, it has the most requirements, which I think is always funny, Texas. But you don't need to be a licensed plumber to do drain work. If you start doing plumbing, or, you know, phase one work as a franchisee is cleaning and clearing drains with a big truck with all those tools, you can make a lot of money, and you never have to do more than that as a Zoom Drain franchise. But also exciting is that you could add septage and grease pumping, or you could add installation. That's what we call digging up the sewer lines, or relining, or pipe bursting. Those are some groovy trenchless ways that really south of the drain is full of opportunity, and another way to continue to grow your franchise in your protected territories, which is exciting. But the meat and potatoes is jets and cables and stuff. That's gonna make you a lot of money right there.
Yep. Yeah. My Zoom Drain story is one of our shops in West Philly, you know, had a drain issue. It was toilet was backing up, and so we called Zoom Drain, and they came out within the same day, and the guy, you know, had his camera and showed us exactly what was wrong, and the iPad, and was like, you know, it's $500 or whatever to fix it temporarily, but like the pipe's degrading. So we had them, you know, do the $500 repair. And then of course it still happened. So they came out and had to dig up, you know, part of the parking lot and replace this piece that had, that you could see was like, you know, below the line, it was like deteriorating. And so whatever, that was like a couple grand, but then it was fixed and it was good. And it was good service. And so,
do you remember who your team was?
I have no idea. This was years ago. This was probably 2019, maybe 2020.
And it's still working?
Yeah, it's still good. So that's
yay. Okay, that's a good story.
But yeah, so that was always good, and it came out like the speed of it, right? Because we had a toilet backing up. You know, it was creating a big problem, obviously, and I think that's always key in these services. So let's talk about that a little bit. This is a 24/7 business, right? So what does that look like from a franchisee's perspective? They're like always on calls, their phone ringing. Like, let's talk about like kind of maybe a little bit of a day in the life of a franchisee.
I could start off a little bit if you want, Ellen.
Do it.
Sure.
So 24/7 business, absolutely, because it's drains, and you could have a drain problem any time of the day. And for marketing purposes, it's very important to market that way. But the reality is that the technicians are not working around the clock servicing those drains, and each franchisee's schedule, their technician schedule, what their business looks like, that model is going to be dependent on how they set it up, either in the beginning or as they go along. And they could be more hands-on in the beginning or less, but the bottom line is that somebody has to be there. So somebody has to be managing the office, making sure the techs show up, get out the door on time. Somebody has to be doing the business development. Someone has to be doing the interviewing and the hiring. So every franchisee's day-to-day, week-to-week could look a little different from franchisee to franchisee. But setting it up according to their needs, their goals, and their desires, it could change along the line as well. And I don't know if you want to add more to that, Ellen.
Yeah, I really like the way Grace said that. Like what we're going to do again, my overall philosophy, all of us, is like one customer, one franchisee, one team member at a time. I don't like painting with a broad brush because the needs and situation of each shop are going to be different. So I'm going to work with who I've got at that shop. But let's talk about the 24/7 thing too, just a minute. If you have water shooting out in your house, you got to get that water shut off. But generally, if a drain is not working, could you just not touch it for a hot minute and we could all wait till the morning? Do you see where I'm going? So most people don't want you to show up at 3 a.m. They would just like to know that you're going to be on the schedule first thing.
Whatever.
Right.
Okay. Yep.
Exactly. So that also is important to realize, like the phone rings. Yes, take the call. Yes, Zoom is our name. If you get there fast, you're going to make more money. Fast, focused, fixed. That's what we do. All we do is drains. We're there. It's in our name. Like fast is what you do as a franchisee, but it's as fast as you can do. And even if you have 100 trucks, there may be a day that you need 150. You're going to do your best, right? This is something that we work out. And some customers are going to be a little more patient than others, depending on the degree. It's been a slow drain for 6 months. You got a hot minute. But we do want to, keep up the urgency every day. It's just how you make money, for sure.
And you have a call center, correct?
We have a call center, and the way the call center, this is how it evolved, is when we were signing on our early OGs, the original franchisees, they were hiring someone to sit in the office, but the phone wasn't really ringing all that much because they're just getting started. And it was awkward to have someone in the office. How do you keep them busy?
Yeah,
so we really took, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we took that call center, and in fact, we just started it like 9 months ago. I mean, it wasn't like it was in the original plan, but it kind of evolved from visiting with our early franchisees and then the new crop of newsies. And we said, how about if we take your calls for you? At least at the beginning, you are going to want someone in the office who's going to wear multiple hats, answer the phone, do some dispatching, run some parts. But right this hot minute, how about if we catch those calls for you and give you a chance to catch up? And so that's how the call center is working. And right now, I'm really excited about the call center. We've got an awesome team. They're gelling. It's really fun to be able to provide.
And all those
service.
Call center employees in Philadelphia at the headquarters, or do you use an outsourced third party?
No, right now, well, they're in there until I want to say like 7 p.m. I'm not 100% sure. They're there most of the day, and then we do turn it over to a call center at the end of the day. But we cover the phones 24/7, and then it's in their CRM point of sale system. It's not like they just get a message. It's actually booked through for them in their. We use Service Titan, so it's in there for them.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think having a call center is one of the greatest features for new franchisees getting involved. Because like you said, every payroll dollar matters, and you have this person sitting there around doing nothing, or it's going to the owner, but then he's trying to like go and network and do other things, and then it's then he's got to stop his meeting and call someone back, and I think it alleviates a ton of pressure, especially in the beginning as you like trying to get things going. If you got somebody who's trained, and as long as they're trained and they're good on the phones, like there's obviously a quality component here, but assuming it's done at headquarters and you guys probably have your own quality assurance and all that stuff. I think it's a great feature.
It is. And you know what, you can relate to this, I'm sure, because nobody wants to call you, do they? Like, does anybody?
Nobody wants to get the car fixed either. So like, it's part of our nature.
Right? They don't want to call you. They don't want to call us. So they're not at their best when they're calling.
Yeah, they're flustered.
And so really, it's just a moment of empathy, and it can sometimes be as simple as you've called the right place. Yep. We'll get it taken care of. So that's really, it's not complicated to do it, but there are some essential elements of catching that call that we do our best to maintain.
So then, speaking of someone starts out new, what does a staffing model look like? So I open up a new thing. What is it? Assuming I'm going to take the general manager role, I'm going to do all those things Grace talked about a minute ago, and I'm not going to hire a manager to do it. Like, it's my business. I'm focused on it. So I got me and who else?
Do you want to take this, Grace, and then I'll color it up?
Absolutely. So if it's you in that owner operator seat, you are going to keep your model very lean. Everybody keeps it very lean out of the gate. That's our strategy. So you'd hire a skilled drain technicians. And this is someone who has done drain work before. You don't want to have two people who've never done drain work on the first truck. You want to have someone who's skilled, and they're teamed up with an apprentice, someone who is very green, and they're there to learn and climb that career ladder, seeing the incentives and bonuses that technician makes. They're on that first truck. And the goal is to scale as quickly as possible, as quickly as you can, get to that next truck from there.
Okay. And so you really start with three employees then?
If you're counting yourself. Yeah.
If you're counting yourself.
Of course, the call center as well.
Is a call center,
the franchisee choose to opt in. You have someone taking the call.
And how easy is it to hire a drain cleaning employee or the apprentice? Or
Can I take this one?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, easy is something you can do. That's what Jim Rohn says. Easy means something you can do. So you can do it, and we help you because we have at Zoom Drain headquarters, we have a director of HR and recruiting, and she and a full-time focused on franchisee recruiter are at the ready to help you. So we're going to set up your Jazz HR, your applicant training software with the ads, with the construct, so you don't have to do all that. And in fact, as you get started, they will recruit and screen those early franchisees. So we might also in some states be looking for a qualifier. It's mostly for Google LSA. Google LSA has a higher standard for licensing than the states do, but we follow whatever rules there are. And if Google LSA is going to support you with a licensed person, we help you find that licensed person too. But Brian, the key to the scalability of Zoom Drain is really the never evers. So once you get that going, and maybe a few, you've met a couple of experienced guys who are currently working, and you've got them in you're texting them now and then when you get another truck, and you're kind of keeping that network going. Ultimately, you're going to grow with never evers, and never evers who don't have any bad habits, who haven't done this before, who start to see what the money can be, the autonomy of being in a cool truck that you can walk into and have all this gear. Like, it is a very cool job to be a Zoom drain cleaner, and that's where you're going to grow. Right. So you need someone with experience to keep you safe and to get you started. But beyond that, it is really going to be the never evers that help you get
How
this
quickly does the apprentice, until the apprentice is able to kind of be the lead guy in his own truck? I know it obviously varies, but from your experience, like, is it a 6 month? Is it a year? Is it like a journeyman? Like, what's it look like?
6 months is what you could do, and it could go even faster. Now, we have training, technical training. In fact, it's going to be like, I think every other month at Philadelphia starting now. This is new. We work with our manufacturers to create like world-class training for hands-on. And then we also have the manuals. So you will, in addition to sending team members to Philadelphia and the crew that comes to help you open, we're very generous with training team members, and we're going to teach you how to train at your place. Like, everyone is going to have drains and toilets and sinks.
Got it. Okay. So you're going to give them the train the trainer guide so they can conduct their own meetings instead of flying to Philly and spending all this money. They can, you build the team, and then you bring all your new guys in one morning and you run through the different scenarios.
And you're all going to do that. And you don't have to become an expert drain cleaner. Like, if you're thinking, do I have to do it myself? Some of our franchisees do. A couple of our young kids who are, we've got some kids in their 20s who are going to just blow this out of the water. I'm so excited about them. And they're like, I'll learn how to do drains. And they're into it. It's not necessary. I've never cleared a drain, but I have gone on about 200 ride-alongs. And so I do pay attention. I do, go out and watch and love on them and admire them and get a feel for what good work looks like. That's going to be part of your journey. And it's really fun. Grace went on a ride-along.
I did, and I'm eager to go on another now that it's warmer. And you learn so much just from one ride along, being able to put a visual to everything that we're talking about. Like Ellen said, you don't have to be doing the drain work, but absolutely having respect for it, seeing the value, and having the willingness to go on ride alongs and see what's going on. It's only going to serve the franchisees.
Yeah, and if they don't have the willingness, I don't think they should get in the business. I mean, I don't know. Even when I first started, I was in the shops. I'm not a mechanic by any means, but I could, I figured out how to change tires. I figured out how to do all the things that were necessary, because then you know what it's like and you can speak to it truthfully. And and understand what's like in their shoes. Right. And obviously I still am not kind of at that point, but anyway, so I think that's key.
Yeah, no,
and know
just what you just said. Like if you're listening and what Brian just said resonates with you, it's all about respect for an essential, dirty job.
Yep.
And this is what's so cool about doing things that other people won't do. I always say you could give me $1,000, a YouTube video, all of the equipment, the cable, and I'm still going to call somebody. I am never going to do my own car, my own drains, but I'm looking for someone who shows up on time. He looks like he's professional. He's using a checklist, and price is really my last concern, right? I just want the job done right. I want to find my guy. And that's really like, if you can relate to that, just having used contractors in your life, you can see how easy it is to be extraordinary. Yeah. Most of the time, the bar is really low in your industry and mine.
Yeah. For sure.
Good people, but they've never been really professional business owners. So the competition is very fragmented, a lot of good people, a lot of poor business practices, and your job is just to be better than them. And it's really exciting. Like you can do this, and Zoom Drain is the best. We pride ourselves in being the experts in drain and sewer, and that's a really it makes me proud.
Awesome. So let's get into some of the financials. So how much, talk to me, how much money can you make cleaning drains? You said it's a lot.
How much can we say? Grace, this one.
I don't know. Whatever doesn't get you in trouble. Tell me that.
I get in trouble.
Why don't we
I'm
talk
leaving this one to Grace.
We could talk about projections for trucks, right? And scaling trucks.
And I can pull up your 19 too and make sure I don't ask.
Yeah, I mean, we got, you know how this is. I used to be a lot more communicative until my lawyer got a hold of me. And there's a lot of rules involved in franchising, and I think it's fine. I believe in regulation because I don't know that people always do the right thing. So yeah. The rules that are imposed are for the benefit of the franchisee for the most part, and it's good. So, you do have to be careful. I do have to be protective. Weight loss results may vary, is what I will say. Now, what could a truck do? I'm trying to think what I can say without getting into too much trouble, or what I've said on stage or something before. Like, suppose you have 1,000 billable hours a year and you charge somewhere between $300 and $500 an hour. And that make you panic and gasp because there's someone in your market area who's charging $49 for a drain, right? $49 will come to your house. Well, and I know, and they probably do it in your industry too, that there are pricing tactics out there that are bait and switch. It's not going to be $49 when they come to your house. It's not going to guarantee that your drain is cleared for that. So we just don't do it. We just don't do it. What we do is we don't have, I'm sure when you called, we don't have a minimum fee. We just send the service tech. He's going to give you a price before he does any work. If you don't like the price, just send him packing. But if you want to, you can go ahead and do the work that day, which is really our overall approach. That way we don't give prices over the phone that change from the phone to the field, et cetera. But going back to that 1,000 hours a year, which is like, when you take out driving around time and training time and everything else that goes on in the life of a drain cleaner, you probably have about 1,000 billable hours a year. And that's not just me talking, that's kind of me being in the industry and paying attention for the last 35 years. And it makes the math easy. So if you charge $300 an hour per your menu pricing, then each tech could do about $300,000 to $500,000 a year, depending on what your prices are. And your ability to communicate the value of your services comes down to showing up clean, on time, ready to rock, using a checklist. And that's how you do it. So you could look at each truck, like a 3-truck company could get you to about $1 million in sales. Yep. I hope I don't get fired for any of that. Does that sound like we're good? Okay.
Yeah. People like that because I think so. I get your item 19 here pulled up, and so maybe I can speak to some of it.
Okay. All right.
And so maybe it's not you guys, but so you got your corporate location, right? So we got the corporate location in Philadelphia, which is more than a single territory, right? It's I believe the entire metro, right? So it is.
It's like and you'll see this. Yeah. You'll see this on our item 19. Like when you go with these early guys, you'll wonder. Does it take $4 million to make those kind of sales? Right. But we're really not capitalizing on the size of that area. We just took that area because it's a corporate location.
Sorry, for perspective though, so that location's Philadelphia Metro, whatever it is, doing 14 million a year is what you have in the FDD, and they have a full P&L too, which is like really good and really transparent. A lot of times, A, they show nothing, or B, they'll show just sales. You have no idea. We've got full P&L with cost of goods and royalties and, you know, all their expenses, right? With a good net margin. So I think sometimes people think this is like a really small business, but in reality, like you said, you can make it into a pretty sizable business.
Yeah.
You've got 22 franchisees and all their gross sales that range, you know, all in the millions. Best one does what, 5 million-ish, it looks like. Sales by year, number of years open, and all these different stuff. So actually very thorough. So anybody's interested in Zoom Drain, I think they've got sorry, my microphones fell out there. They got an excellent excellent FDD here. So we get a lot of praise for our FDD because we have a lot of different breakdowns in the charts and different ways to show the sales of our franchisees and our affiliate locations. It really helps with the budgeting and the prep for the candidates. Yeah. That's one of the biggest challenges when people go into a new franchise is, for me, when I was looking at, because we started some other franchises besides Midas, was like, what does that first year look like? Like, am I going to be cash flow positive? Like, or am I going to have to like put money, or how long am I have to go put money into this thing? And like, nobody can answer that question, right? Nobody knows. Like, you don't know, I don't know, nobody knows. And so a lot of it is just through looking at historical and trying to get an idea of what you can do. So anyway, big size business. So can you tell me, I guess, some success stories maybe of some of your franchisees? Like, does someone need to have experience in the trades in order to get into a Zoom Drain? Do you have anybody who has not and had success? Like, tell me a story or two.
Do you want to start, Grace, and then I can jump in?
So do you want me to talk about some new, like maybe I was thinking of Rob Lynch, Kevin
perfect.
Hussey. Yeah. So we've had, now, believe it or not, our franchisee base is teetering heavier on the no drain or plumbing experience at all. That's not how we started out, which is super common in franchising, right? Like when you're a part of an industry, that's how you build your franchisee base, is people you know, people from the industry. And we realized that that's not really what we're looking for. We want the business builders, the entrepreneurial minds, the very hungry, motivated people with a lot of grit, right? So the new base of franchisees, the folks that we added on in 2022 into 2023, really all of them, they come from backgrounds that range from, finance to a lot of corporate world, finance and marketing and telecommunications, all different types of backgrounds and companies and personalities. But the fact that they have that grit is something that bonds them and really ties them together. So that's who we're looking for moving forward. And success stories, we have people like Kevin Hussey, comes from insurance background, had an insurance business and wanted something of his own, really had this entrepreneurial itch, didn't know how to scratch it, didn't know which direction to go. And he's that never ever, like Ellen shared, no sort of background in plumbing, drains, experience in that. And he has told me multiple times, he's a very proud Zoom Drains franchisee. He's told me multiple times that it's the best decision he's ever made. And he's so happy to wake up each morning and start his Zoom Drain day to day. So to me, that's a success story, right? Finding happiness in what you do every day. And it's very rewarding being able to help others as well. He loves his team. So Ellen, you might have more specifics from some of the.
I love that. And I remember when Kevin came to confirmation day too, I mean, we're like, is the gross factor going to be an issue for you? Like, cause you still like, it is so weird. I would never have thought that I would be like, we have this chat, that catch of the day, like what weird things or gross things we find in the drain. And I'm obsessed with it. Like, I love it.
Yeah,
but like,
funny.
you're just like, is this going to turn you off? Are you going to be okay with it? And he said, you know what, I'll come down, because he's up in North Jersey. He said, I'll come down, I'll ride along with the guys. And he just dug in. So it was really fun to see him say, I'm going to embrace this. I'm there. And I guess as a guy with insurance, he's seen some pretty gross things.
Is there
too.
Like a Slack channel, or like, how do franchisees
Yeah,
communicate?
it's Google Chat is what we do now. Although at our Empire event in about a month and a half, we are really energizing the Zoom Hub. And the Hub is an intranet that will pull all our apps together. We have a very intensive app stack. If you like apps, you're going to like Zoom Drain. We try and keep this as high tech as we can. I mean, what makes a good franchisee? Our values are, let me list our values. If these values resonate with you, then take a look at Zoom Drain. One is energy, and that means we show up. Just show up. We show up every day, you know, thick or thin, you go in. And that can be virtually, like, again, I'm a remote worker at Zoom Drain, but I show up every day, and that's what we expect, is that there is someone there, you or a team member, who's going to just, you know, take care of the team and their you know, whatever you find that day to get calls, texts, and trucks on the road. And then the next value is grit, and grit means we get it done. Because this is, you know, the fun part of this. If you're like in a corporate job that's predictable and there's the same every day and you go to, none of that happens here. All of it is really exciting. There's going to be something happening every day that you have to respond to. You don't have to be in the office much, but you do have to be around and you do have to get stuff done. So grit is a value that we have as a group. The next one is responsibility. That means I own it, you own it. We find ourselves in it. We're going to, you know, whatever's in our hula hoop, we're going to deal with. I don't move outside my hula hoop much. I don't worry about the economy. I don't worry about what the other guy's doing. I worry about Zoom Drain and what we can do to make sure that things happen. And then there's, we have community. Oh yeah, we have community and performance. So community is the best part. We love each other. And another thing about being part of an emerging brand is you can put your thumbprint on it. Like, we all know each other. It's not, you know how a group gets so big that right now the core team that will impact the whole history of Zoom Drain is being formed. And I've been part of the beginning of many groups. That's a sweet spot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? And then the performance means we keep score and we get better. My personal responsibility in the franchise is to pay attention to you and your balance sheet and profit and loss. It's what I do best. It's what I love. It's where my skill set is. And we want you to make money. We want your team members to do well. We're going to pay attention to the numbers and make data-driven decisions. So those are our values, and the franchisees for whom those resonate are the ones that are kicking it.
That's awesome. And what's it ballpark cost to get into a Zoom Drain?
That's you, Grace.
Sure. So our item 7 is ballpark $227 to $428 and change.
Gotcha. And depending on, I guess, working capital, how much they spend on marketing, probably the vehicle, if they buy it outright versus lease, all that factors, right?
That's yes. On the high end, that would be if you were to purchase the vehicle versus the lower end if you're leasing the vehicle. And that's an important distinction. So thank you for pointing that out. Yeah,
a lot of times too, that range is so drastic, especially in you know, equipment-based ones because of the way it's disclosed. But obviously you guys help narrow that number down as they figure out how they're going to finance it. And trucks and equipment are usually pretty easy to get loans on it. So that helps.
Hey, can I ask you a question? May I ask you a question? So how did you get so big? What can you share with us today? I mean, I'm really impressed by you and your story.
I mean, we've grown primarily through acquisitions. So we've, you know, and especially in the franchise world, you know, a lot of franchisees want to sell to other franchisees. And so we've, a lot of guys have wanted to retire and get out, and, you know, young and energetic and, you know, proactive. We become the easiest solution for them. And so, and we've also done some other, you know, we're looking at some independents now to acquire independent, you know, businesses, and, you know, obviously brand them as Midas and that fit in our footprint and aren't too close to competing stores and all that stuff. So that is that's been our primary method of growth.
And I'll bet that Midas is glad to have you on the team.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you have your fingerprint on things there?
Yeah. No. We're the 4th largest franchisee, and, you know, we're active, and I'm on the franchise advisory committee, and I'm the head of the growth committee, or, you know, and so I'm very active in it, and I enjoy it because then, you know, our ideas, you know, some of my ideas can get implemented, and I have, you know, I know I'm having a positive impact on, you know, the 1,000 other locations that are out there.
And I think that's like what turns me on so much about franchising. Like, if I were to ever start another business again, I would 100% buy a franchise, because you don't have to write the manual. You don't have to come up with the name or protect it. Like, just those basic things are going to save you 10 years. And then you find a good franchise who's interested in your involvement, who is humble and hungry, and is aligned with your values. It just is such a cool way to go. And I think, Brian, especially as people become a little concerned about the economic environment, again, that's outside of my hula hoop. But what's inside my hula hoop is to pay attention to acquisition opportunities, because there are going to be people who throw in the towel or use this as a reason to throw in the towel. And it will be nice for you to be standing there to make yet another acquisition. I say that to my team too, and I admire.
Yeah. So how does it, well, we're running almost to the end here, but so talk me a little bit about acquisition. So can a franchisee, so I own a Zoom drain in Miami, and there's a competing, or I make friends with another guy who also cleans drains. Like, can I buy him out? Like, do I pay more royalties? I don't know, franchise fees. Like, what does that all look like?
Well, as you know, there's a spectrum of acquisition. And on one end, it would be someone goes out of business and they leave a phone number hanging, and you secure that phone number and have it ring into your shop. That's like one end of the spectrum. Other end of the spectrum, full-blown brick and mortar assets, people who might want to come work for you. Like, there's a whole going concern there. Now, on that end of the scale, that would be something to talk to your franchisor about. Like, is that something that we would make any kind of concessions or one-time adjustments to your franchise fees? I'm like, let's set that aside. Where I would go is on the low-hanging fruit, the easy peasy stuff, the 1 to 2 truck operators, which really constitute 80% of plumbing, heating, cooling contractors of all stripe, are very small shops. And those guys would rather work for you, perhaps. Maybe they're ready to retire. Maybe their neck or their back or their knees hurt. And to take a guy whose business isn't worth very much and give him a better option than shutting it down can be gold. And we've got a lot of expertise in that arena. So make it really a nice option, a loving, awesome opportunity for someone to find an exit strategy where they may not see one. And it all really stems from our referral marketing program. Like, you want to make friends with the people who are in your area. Get to know them, be known as a trusted influencer, someone who could refer work, who's going to get things done, who's going to exhibit our values. That relationship with your community could turn into acquisition gold.
That's interesting. I don't know if I'm thinking, and I'm spitballing here, but this is how I would think about it if I was a franchisee. So I'd find another local one truck guy who lives in my existing territory. So I'm not buying, shouldn't cost me anything new, right? Because it's already within my protected territory. And he wants to retire. And, obviously most of the business would come via phone call, right? So how I'd probably do is I'd either buy the phone number, track it, or you track what sales you're getting in, and then similar to referral network, hey, I'll pay you out, whatever, maybe it's 10% or 15% or whatever it is for a predetermined amount of time, 3 years, 2 years. And so for him, it's just like he's going to get a check every month. And for you, if not that much business comes in, you're not like paying him on all this money that, happened 3 years ago or 30 years ago or whatever it is. And so it could potentially be a win-win where it's more of like a royalty for a predetermined time than a
ding, ding, ding. It's just like our referral program, except for in this case, the phone rings directly to you.
Yep. And then you can track hopefully in the CRM of whatever the inbound lead was, and it's all automated and super easy. I'd hope. But
so the next time I talk to you, you're going to have done this 5 times.
Yeah, that's right. If I owned a Zoom drain, I would. But
well, and this I learned this, just being in the industry. It's just a highly fragmented small business industry. Contracting in general. So it applies here. It applies.
Which is where franchising
in any arena.
That's where they thrive. I think, and that's what we're seeing now is the real trend is these highly fragmented, somewhat unsophisticated from a technology standpoint businesses. And then a franchise comes in, they've got the professional website, they've got the process and the iPads and the texts and all this stuff. And, customers get to pick between A and B, the unprofessional and the professional. They assume that a professional image provides a better service. And which may or may not, but that's the perception, and so that becomes then reality. So anyway, I think it's awesome. So
you're awesome. I've enjoyed
Thanks,
this.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Great. So, so if anybody's interested in learning more about Zoom Drain, reach out to me directly, or if you reach out to them, just make sure you tell them you heard about them on Business with Beers. Any other parting words, Alan or Grace?
Zoomdrain.com. Zoomdrain.com. We also have our Unclogged podcast, and we have tells you all the good things about Zoom Drain and drains. And our LinkedIn page as well has amazing articles and blogs I look at regularly. So got to throw that in there.
This is why I loved Grace. Look at her. She's making sure we're covering all
the Unclogged
here.
podcast. That's funny.
Hey, thanks so much. So nice to brag on Zoom Drain and learn from a sharp guy like you. Thanks, Grace. Always love to play with you too.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Ellen and Brian.
All right. I'll see you. That's all we got for this episode with the Business with Beers podcast. One thing that would really help both us and other new potential listeners is to rate the show and leave a comment in iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen. Also, make sure to link up with me on your preferred social media platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find all my links at brianbeers.com. Please just share the podcast with anyone who you think might enjoy it. And until next time, remember to take the actions others won't, to live the life that others don't.